Okay, so this is the third lecture in this course, and today we are starting with the third chapter, which is labor productivity and comparative advantage. And this is going to be a multi-part video lessons, so that they are short and easy to understand. Because we will be covering different concepts in each section, so they will be having separate videos. Now, we will start with comparative advantage. Okay, and the theories of trade. Okay, so comparative advantage in simple word is when you have a advantage in producing certain good. You have less cost of production, and your resources are more productive in producing some good. Okay, then you have a comparative advantage in producing that. We will be discovering and learning more of comparative advantage as we will move on. Okay, so there are three theories associated with it. Okay, so first is the Ricardian model, then we have specific factor model, and then Heskerolian model. Today we will be focusing on Ricardian model. Okay, Ricardian model examines the differences in the productivity of labor due to differences in technology between the countries. So for example, there is home country and foreign country. Ricardian model says that the productivity across these two countries is going to be different because technology is different in these two countries. Okay, so we will come to the other two models later, so let's just focus on Ricardian model. So the Ricardian model uses the concept of opportunity cost and comparative advantage. Okay, so we know what is opportunity cost is. The opportunity cost of producing something measures the cost of not being able to produce something else with the resources we have. Okay, so basically we know that every economy has limited resources, and with those limited resources you have to produce what all you can. Okay, so for example, there are two goods, wine and cheese, and I have a resource which is labor. Now the same labor will be used to produce wine and also the cheese, but since the resources are limited, if I'm using my labor to produce cheese, the same labor cannot be used to produce wine. So the resource, the total labor, has to be shared between these two goods. Now, if I have to increase the production of cheese, I have to reduce the production of wine. Okay, so the wine that I'm giving up to produce more cheese, this is the opportunity cost of producing cheese. Okay, so we will be looking at this concept of opportunity cost and how it is related to comparative advantage and how it is used in the Ricardian model. Then a country has a comparative advantage in producing a good if the opportunity cost of producing that good is lower in the country than in the other countries. So, home and foreign countries there. Okay. So, if the opportunity cost of producing cheese is low in the home country as compared to opportunity cost of producing cheese in the foreign country, then we will say that home country has a comparative advantage in producing cheese as compared to the foreign country. Okay, so the trade between two countries can benefit both the countries if each economy exports the good in which it has comparative advantage. So trade is only beneficial if you are producing the good in which you have a comparative advantage and then exporting that. Okay. Okay, so one factor Ricardian model and the assumptions of the model. So obviously this model has certain assumptions. So labor is the only factor here, single factor, one factor, and that is only labor. Labor productivity varies across countries due to differences in the technology, but labor productivity in each country is constant. So between home and foreign country, the productivity of labor is different because we are assuming that there is a technology difference in these two countries. The technological advancement is different in home and foreign country. And that's why there is a difference in the productivity of labor between home and foreign. But within the home country, okay, the labor productivity is same. If I have 100 labors, then they are equally productive. Then we are talking about home country. So within the country, there is no difference in the productivity of the labor. Across the country, there is a difference in the productivity. Then we are assuming two goods are there, wine and cheese, and we are also assuming the supply of labor in each country is constant. So whatever labor is there at a particular time, okay, it is constant. So they cannot move across the country also. Okay, no labor can move across the country. So whatever labor they have at a particular time, it is constant. Okay. Then competition allows workers to be paid a wage equal to the value of what they are producing and allows them to work in the industry that pays the highest wage. This is we'll be exploring more. But this means that obviously, see, since two industries within the home country, wine and cheese industry, they are competing. Okay, they have that same labor that they have to use. Okay, now to attract labor, okay, what they will do, they will pay the higher wages. Okay, so labor will be producing only that good in which they are getting higher wage. Okay, so we have two countries, which is home and foreign country. And a unit labor requirement indicates the constant number of hours of labor required to produce one unit of output. Okay, so when we are talking about a unit of labor, it is in hours. Okay, hours of labor. So 1 hour is a unit, 1 unit of labor. Okay, so as we can see here, we have ALC. Okay, so what is ALC? ALC is the unit labor requirement for cheese in home country. ALC is labor for cheese. So ALC is the unit labor requirement for cheese in the home country, and let's say ALC is equal to 1. ALC is equal to 1 means that 1 hour of labor is required to produce 1 unit of cheese, or in this case 1 pound of cheese. Okay, so ALC is the labor requirement. So one ALC is 1 hour because we are measuring labor requirement in hours. Okay, similarly for wine, it is ALW, labor for wine, LW. So for wine, we are assuming that ALW, which is the labor requirement for producing a unit of wine, is 2. So 2 hours of labor are needed to produce 1 gallon of wine. Okay. In simple terms, I can say that 1 hour of labor is producing 1 unit of cheese, and 2 hours of labor is producing 1 unit of wine. So a high labor requirement, which is in wine here, okay, a high per unit labor requirement means low productivity. So it's simple that if I need to produce 1 unit of each good, cheese and wine, okay, but the labor required for wine is more as compared to cheese, we will say that the productivity of labor is less in producing wine because we need more people to produce that same unit of wine as compared to cheese. So labor supply is denoted by L. Labor supply L indicates the total number of hours worked in the home country, which is again a constant number. So we will have a certain number and we'll say that this is the given labor supply, and with this given labor supply, we have to produce what we can. Now let's look at the production possibilities. So we have to look at what we can produce, the possibilities of production. So the production possibility frontier PPF of an economy shows the maximum amount of goods that can be produced for a fixed amount of resources. Okay, the maximum we can produce with the limited resources is shown by the PPF. So usually it is this like the curved one. Okay, and we have these two goods, and with these two goods and the given resources, we can produce a certain amount of each good. Okay, so if QC denotes the quantity of cheese and QW denotes the quantity of wine, then the PPF of the home economy is given by this equation. ALC multiplied by QC is labor requirement for cheese multiplied by quantity of cheese produced. Okay. Similarly, ALW into QW is 1 unit labor requirement for wine into the total production of wine. Okay. So this will obviously be less than or equal to the total supply of labor, which is this step L. Okay. This cannot exceed it. We cannot exceed. The labor hours are fixed, which is this capital L. So this equation is giving me the total hours of labor required in producing these two goods, and the same resources will be shifted from one industry to another if I have to produce another good. Okay, So suppose that economy's labor supply, which is given, it is 1,000 hours. Okay, ALW, which is the unit requirement for wine, which is 2. So 2 unit of labor is required to produce 1 unit of wine. And similarly for cheese, ALC is 1. Okay, so PPF equation, we'll just put these value into the equation. We have then we have this QC plus 2QW, which should be less than equal to 1,000. And with this, I can just get the maximum cheese production. Here in this case, it's 1,000 pounds. How I'm just rearranging the equation to get this. Okay, so just QC is here. I want the value of QC, and I'll just rearrange the terms and get the value. Okay, so uh, QC is equal to L by ALC, which is the total labor supply divided by the ALC, which is the 1 unit of labor. Okay, and then similarly for wine, I can get that, and we know that. So 1,000 is my L in this case. Okay, and for labor, I'll just divide that 1,000 with the per unit labor requirement, which is 1. So if I have 1,000 hours total, so assuming I'm not producing any wine here, QW is 0. When I'm talking about maximum cheese I can produce, I'm assuming that I'm not producing any wine. Okay, so this gives me the respective values. Okay. Then the home production possibility frontier. Okay, so we have already discussed the equation for the production possibility frontier. Okay, now let's look at the another concept, which is the opportunity cost of cheese. Okay, I have already told you what the opportunity cost is. So let's just look at this. How many unit of wine I have to give up so that I can produce that 1 extra unit of cheese is the opportunity cost of cheese in terms of wine, which is given by the ratio of the per unit requirement. So ALC divided by ALW. Okay, so ALC is 1 and ALW is 2, and this will give me this 1 by 2. This is the opportunity cost of producing cheese. Okay, this is constant. Now this cost is constant. Okay, and this opportunity cost is also the slope of production possibility frontier, and thus in this figure we can see that production possibility frontier is this straight line. Why it is a straight line? It is not curved, it is straight. Why? Because the opportunity cost is constant, which means the slope of the curve is constant. That's why it is a straight line. If it was increasing opportunity cost, then we would have a curved PPF. Okay, but in this it is constant, so we have a straight line. The opportunity cost of cheese appears as the absolute value of the slope of PPF. Okay, and this is the formula. Now, relative prices, wages, and the supply. So if PC is the price of cheese and PW is price of wine, so price is what? Price is the value of that good. At what it is being sold. Okay, so what is the value of that good for the industry? What industry is getting when they are selling that 1 unit? Okay, so PC is the price of cheese, PW is price of wine. Due to competition, okay, hourly wages of cheese maker equal the value of the cheese produced in an hour. So hourly wage always depends on the productivity of the labor. Okay, this is assumed again, but uh, we are assuming that due to this competition, the hourly wages are equal to the productivity. Okay, so PC divided by ALC, the value price divided by the requirement of the labor. Okay, this is giving me that hourly wage. How I'll calculate the hourly wage. Okay, similarly we have for wine PW by ALW. Now, given this, workers will choose to work in the industry that pays the higher wage. Okay, now who will pay the higher wage? How that will be decided? Okay, so there are different things. So first this thing is relative prices. Relative prices is price of cheese relative to wine or wine relative to cheese. Okay, then we have wages. Wages is what the worker is getting. Okay, and the supply is supply of the product. So to supply product, we have to produce the product. So for to produce the product, we need the labor, and labor will work for that industry which is paying more. Okay, this is the idea. Now, the relation between relative price of cheese and opportunity cost of cheese. What is the relationship? So opportunity cost, you can say, is the cost that you are incurring to produce that particular cheese. Okay, so what you are giving up to produce that cheese. Okay, that is the cost. Okay, so opportunity cost is given by ALC divided by ALW. We have already done that. Okay, then relative prices, PC by PW, the ratio of the prices. Okay, now if PC by PW, so this is the relative price of cheese as compared to wine, and I'll just call it relative price of cheese. So, relative price of cheese is more than opportunity cost. If relative price of cheese is more than opportunity cost, then wage in cheese will exceed the wage in wine. Okay, the wages in cheese will be more than that in wine. Okay, in this case, workers will be only producing cheese because that industry is giving them more wage. Okay, so they will be willing to work for that industry. Okay, one thing. Another thing, if this relative price of cheese is less than the opportunity cost, okay, relative price is less, so opportunity cost is more. Okay, so cost is more. Thus, in this case, wage in cheese will be less than wine. Thus, workers will be willing to work for the wine industry instead of cheese industry. Okay, and thus how the supply of product will also be impacted. So, if the country wants to consume both wine and cheese, in absence of international trade, for now, there is no international trade, so everything is produced by the home country. And if they want both the goods, okay, relative prices must adjust so that wages are equal in both the country for both the industries. And if the wages are equal in both the industries, then the workers will be indifferent, like to work in any industry. Okay, so any industry can attract the workers. So the in this case, the relative price should be equal to the what do you say, opportunity cost. Okay, in that case, you can achieve equal wages in both the uh, industries. Okay, okay. Now let's talk about trade. Okay, so we saw that if there is no trade and you want to produce both the good, you want to consume both the goods, you want to fulfill this particular condition. Okay, then if there is a trade, okay, now the economy is open. Now there is a home country and a foreign country. Okay, so this production of cheese at home, production of cheese in foreign country, production of cheese at home, production of wine at home, and production of wine in foreign country. Okay, so quantity produced in home country is denoted by QC. Quantity of cheese produced in foreign country is denoted by Q star C. Similarly, for wine, quantity of wine produced in home country is QW, and same for the foreign country is Q star W. Okay, so first we need to calculate the world relative supply of cheese. Okay, so it is the global supply. Okay, global supply total of the home country and foreign country. The quantity of cheese supplied by all countries related to the quantity of wine supplied by all the countries. So global quantity of cheese and the global supply of the wine. Okay, ratio of that is the relative supply of cheese. Now, relative supply of cheese depends on first relative price of cheese. Okay, and opportunity cost of cheese in home country and opportunity cost of cheese in foreign country. Okay, this is a global supply. Okay, so that is why now the ratio of price. So earlier we were only taking the ratio of prices with the opportunity cost of particular good in the home country because there was no trade. Now when there is a trade, we will again consider the relative prices of the goods, but we'll also consider the opportunity cost in the home country and opportunity cost in the foreign country, so that we can look, where the comparative advantage is, who's having the comparative advantage. That's why we have to consider the opportunity cost. Country with less opportunity cost has the comparative advantage in producing that particular good. Okay, so let's look at all these scenarios. So these are different cases, just different cases, and they are just explaining same thing. Okay, about the world relative supply. So how the good will be supplied globally, who will be producing what. Okay, PC by PW, relative price of cheese. If this relative price of cheese is less than the opportunity cost at home and also less than the opportunity cost at what we say foreign country, okay, then no cheese will be produced, because in home country also opportunity cost is more, in foreign country also opportunity cost is more, so nobody is willing to produce cheese. Why? We have already done that, because if opportunity cost is more, there will be lower wages in that particular industry, and everybody will be willing to produce wine due to higher wages in that industry. Okay, more opportunity cost than relative price means less wages. Okay, so If wages are less, nobody is willing to produce that good, because no labor wants to work in that industry due to less wages. Okay, now in the first criteria, in the first case, relative price is less than opportunity cost at home also, and also in the foreign market. Okay, so nobody wants to go into cheese industry. Okay, then if relative price of cheese is equal to opportunity cost in the home country, but relative price of cheese is less than the opportunity cost in foreign country. Okay, in this case, domestic workers are indifferent of producing wine or cheese. Why? Because they have already done that. The relative price is equal to the opportunity cost. Okay, they are indifferent. But in foreign countries, still they will be producing wine. Why? Because the opportunity cost of producing wine. Okay, sorry, opportunity cost of producing cheese is more than the relative price. Okay, and similarly, we have the other cases sharing the same idea. Wherever the opportunity cost will be more, the wages will be less, and thus the production will be of the other good. Okay, so similarly in the third case we can see that opportunity cost is less than relative price in the home country, but the relative price is less than the opportunity cost for the cheese in the foreign market. In this case, domestic worker will only produce cheese because there will be higher wages as opportunity cost is less, and in foreign workers will still produce only wine because the relative price is less than the opportunity cost. And then this fourth case where the opportunity cost is less than relative price in the home country. Again, home country only cheese is produced, but the relative price is equal to the opportunity cost in the foreign market. In the foreign market, workers are indifferent. Okay. Next case, opportunity cost in domestic market is less than the opportunity cost in the foreign market, and it is less than the relative prices. So nobody is producing wine, everybody is producing cheese. Okay, these are the cases. The same cases, same thing repeated twice, thrice. I don't know how many times. Okay, so this is about the comparative advantage. So if you have less opportunity cost, you have more comparative advantage in producing something. Okay, why? Because the resources are used efficiently, so the cost is less. Okay, you have to give up less to produce that particular thing. You can specialize in that particular thing and then trade, export that. Okay, then world relative supply and demand. Okay, so world relative supply we did, the global supply we did. Okay, and there is a relative demand curves also. Okay, so relative demand of cheese is the quantity of cheese demanded in all the countries total. So just like supply, this is demand. So the relative price, sorry, the relative demand for cheese is the quantity of cheese demanded in all the countries relative to the quantity of wine demanded in all the countries. Similarly, we will just do that ratio of the total demand. Okay, so as the price of cheese relative to price of wine rises, consumers in all countries will tend to purchase less cheese because it has become costly, and more wine, so that the relative quantity of demand of cheese falls, obviously because the prices are rising. Same downward sloping demand curve, and then we have the relative quantities on these two axes, and this is how we will see that how the supply and demand will work. Okay, so uh yeah, so what we covered here, we covered the Ricardian model. Okay, we just focus on the Ricardian model. We learn what is opportunity cost and how that opportunity cost impacts the wages, and then wages impact the supply of the good, and this decides that what will be traded. Okay, based on the comparative advantage. Okay, so if you have any doubt, you can just rewatch the video and you can just comment your doubt, and do subscribe and like, and then we'll be continuing with the next topic from the same chapter, the next section, and we will look into some more concepts. Thank you.